recording. Ta-da! Welcome, everyone. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Maria Marquis, and here at Coda, I consider myself the Chief Cheerleading Officer. I love spending time with makers, empowering them, learning together, and just finding more ways to channel our solutions to problems into Coda so that we can hopefully all leave a little bit better than what we found it. Now, I'm really excited because I am with one of my doctorate program graduates, Gretchen Teagarden. For those of you who don't know what the doctorate program is, it is a 6-week cohort learning program that's completely free that I host. And we go through, over that course of 6 weeks, key learnings of how to really think strategically about building Coda Docs, promoting Coda Docs, and really thinking about designing them with the same intentionality that we would an app or another product. And Gretchen was part of my second cohort of graduates, super wonderful person in all kinds of ways, and has built a really interesting doc that we're going to be taking a look at today. So in our Maker Stories webinars, what I do is I sit down with someone who's made a cool Coda doc, and I ask them questions about how they built it and how it works, and we just kind of nerd out on Coda. Now, we've got some things that Gretchen and I are going to be sharing with all of you, but I like talking with people so much more than I like just talking myself. And I love to talk. Gretchen knows this about me. So if you have a question, comment, concern, idea, emotional outburst, I would love to know about it. And the way to ask me or Gretchen a question, just use that chat field. And you can send it privately, directly to me, or to the everyone option. Either one works, but you don't need to wait for Gretchen and I to stop talking, because Gretchen and I could talk for a really long time. So anytime you have a question, we want to know about it, and you can let us know. Okay, so with all of the logistical stuff out of the way, let's start with you, Gretchen. Gretchen, do you want to introduce yourself to the group? Let them know a little bit about who you are.
Hi, Maria. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be talking to you and everyone here about how I handled at-home learning during the pandemic. That was where I really was exposed to the power of Coda. I was already using Coda with some of my work data, but actually building an app to manage school, that came to the fore for me during the pandemic. But my background, I worked in financial services. I wrote research reports about publicly traded software and internet companies.
Love it.
And so my love for Coda, it comes from a place of trying to make Excel work with Word.
Play together.
Yes, and trying to be able to reference data in the context of, say, a paragraph. So having a lot of structured data in an Excel earnings model, but then wanting to refer to that structured data in an unstructured form, like a narrative or paragraph. That was not available to me. So there was a lot of back and forth of error checking and, oh, wait, the paragraph is referring to this piece of data, but that data changed and it's not updating.
Right.
And so that's my background. And but what brings me here today is my job, my most rewarding job, my most challenging job, which is being a mom. I have 3 kids, and when the pandemic started, we switched to at-home learning. And it's interesting because as a parent, the schools all have systems, what are called learning management systems. Yeah. And they're designed for teachers and for students, and then peripherally for parents, but they're not really optimized for parents, for sure. And I might argue they're not very well optimized for students either. So, and then in the case of my kids, they also have a whole separate system for grades and where grades go.
Wow.
So
I'm tired already.
I know. So I'll kind of talk about before the pandemic and after, because now we're not in full on at home learning anymore.
Right.
But having gone through it, what I was exposed to is when the parents became kind of the teacher almost, mm-hmm. I really got my hands dirty. I had to get my hands dirty in the teacher's part of that system and the student's part of that system. Before, my role was I would just go into the parent portal part. And so it was more of a summary, and it wasn't the actual, okay, here are the slides I want you to look at, or here's the material I want you to study, and here's your quiz that you're going to do. That was more teachers and students, and the parent coming in was just the parent portal, seeing the big picture.
Yeah.
But when we switched to at-home learning, then I got into the mechanics of the curriculum, and obviously it was challenging at first, because you're trying to figure out what do they need to know, what materials do I need to get? And there's a lot of apps that are used, like you're logging into Google Drive, you're pulling up a PowerPoint slide, and you're also trying to make sure that they're doing the online tests on time, that they've learned it. So it was just kind of a lot. And
yeah, you become almost like the ad hoc teacher in that remote situation, because everyone's figuring it out and there's so many things. And then I would imagine with 3 kids, you're juggling like 3 different curriculums and everything.
Yeah. Well, 2 of my kids are twins.
Oh gosh. Okay. So there's a little bit easier.
They had some overlap, but they didn't all take the same classes. So there were 15 total different classes. And each of those teachers had different ways of doing things.
Right.
And I already was a little bit grumpy about the systems anyway.
Fix it.
Anytime I hear the word portal when describing an app, I get concerned. So anyway, that's another topic. But so I was already using Coda for my work data, getting this formulaic narrative thing going. And I thought, okay, I am going to build a new system for our family. Like, we're just going to not use that system. And I'm going to get the material that they want, but we're going to do this a new and better way. And so that's how the Homework Nag Eliminator for students and parents came about.
I love it. Let's open it up. Let's take a look. Would you mind? Let's share your screen and let's see how it's all put together. One thing I love about this, Gretchen, is that so often the tools that we use for work, like, oh, if only we had the same level of access in our personal lives, because sometimes the problems we need to solve for our families, for our friends, for ourselves are just as complicated as the ones that we need to solve for work. And I love how you've transferred the skills there. And yes, Ryan, we will be recording this webinar and you can have it as a copy. Yes, great question. Yeah, Gretchen, let's go ahead. Let's see the doc that solved it all.
Let me make sure I've got, hold on. Oops, let me get screen shared. Okay. Share screen. Share.
Beautiful. Looks great. So walk us through, how is this put together?
Okay. So in order to have one system that could work for all of the different needs, I had to take a step back and break the whole thing apart into its component pieces, because I didn't want to make separate systems for each of my kids' setup. I wanted a system that could work for for every year, for any class that just could handle anything you threw at it. So I just want to just kind of back up just a little bit. One of the things, one of my favorite docs in the Coda Gallery is the Eigen question doc. I think just having worked in research, I like question frameworks, but it was interesting when I was reading that doc, because that framework of you have 10 questions, but if you answer one, it could answer all of them. In this challenge that I had, it was almost a reverse. So instead of having 10 questions and figuring out which one was important, we always had one question that we really needed to flesh out into 10 questions. And because we really never did that, we were always bumping up to it. So for example, that one question that I was asking my kids a lot over the years, and probably other parents have, is they come home from school and you ask the question, do you have homework? And it seems
I'm
like
flashing back to this, like, yes,
it's a very, but getting back to the inverse of the Eigen question. So that instead of having 10 questions where one is important, in that example, you really have one question that really is 10 questions. And without unpacking it, you're kind of just going in circles. And it does kind of feel like nagging, which nobody wants to do that. The parents don't like that. The students don't like that. So when I ask my kids, do you have homework? What I really mean is, do you know whether or not you have homework?
Ooh.
And do you know whether or not you have homework in English, in science, in social studies? And do you know when that homework is due? Is another question underneath the do you have homework question.
Yeah.
And then another sub question is, do you know how to do that homework? Because then if you don't, do we know when your teacher provides tutoring? And if so, do you need to get in there? Or is at the high school level, it's more like office hours? Do you know when those office hours are?
Right.
And do you need me to help you? Do you know the general topic? Because this really came to fore in the pandemic, because the schools will communicate with phrases like Unit 2 or Unit 4.2. But if you're a parent, you that's not really helpful. What for me, what I want is a parent is, that's fine if their naming convention is Unit 1, 2 point whatever, that's fine. But if I am going to help my son with math, what I really need is, are we doing exponential fractions here? Or like, I need general topics.
Yeah. To know what support really needs to happen and to help you focus. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry,
and the topics, because I'm going to take those topics and punch them into Khan Academy.
I'm going to Google it.
I haven't done algebra in a while.
Algebra is the one with the letters. Yeah.
Right. So from my mind, like, I'm thinking the unit stuff is not helpful to me. Like, just give me like the topics and let me kind of start pulling up some YouTubes and get myself primed to help you, So, and then the other question underneath that, do you have homework question, is this a project? Because if it's a project, we really want to know when it's due.
Yeah.
Because, do you need materials? And, do you want, like, I love science projects, but if I find out about the project the night before it's due, right, then I'm running to Michael's and I'm basically buying a volcano kit.
Yeah.
Which I don't want to do, because in my mind, I'm thinking, gee, if I knew this a week ago, we could have had a whole little Saturday. It could have been a bonding thing.
Yeah. Gretchen, as you're talking, the thing that's really resonating for me is that this doc, in addition to supporting your kids' education during a really challenging time, also like helped create brain space for you as well, so that you're not having to be frantic either. Like, I love that there's that core of like, this is for everybody in the family unit, so that we can all cope with this weird time and be able to manage our time in a way that's not frantic. And I love that there's like a place for all of you in that doc. That's really cool. That's just coming up for me right now.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, yeah, because, in my heart, it's like, I want learning to be fun. I want it to be fun for us. And when it's all deadline driven and, last minute, and we're not doing something original and creative. I don't know, it's just not fun. So, and one other background, and then I'm going to get into the doc, I promise, but and every family's different. So this was really built for our family's unique needs. I think it can work for so many people. I hope it does. But our challenge specifically was my kids, 2 of my 3 kids, if you were to look at their grades, like take a 9-week period of time, their grades would look like 100, 90, 0. Mm-hmm. And then 85, 95, 0. And 100, 0. So their average would look as though they were barely understanding the material. Mm. But the truth, kind of getting back to those questions, the truth was they were struggling with managing the life cycle of homework. Sure. Going from starting from getting the assignment, getting the date it's due, doing it, and turning it in. So some of those zeros, they would have done it, but forgot to turn it in. Some of them were, I didn't know it was due that day. So, but when they do it, thankfully, I'm grateful, they do well, but they really do struggle with managing that full life cycle of the homework. So that's another point of, this is an attempt to address that, as well as avoid me having to ask a lot of questions after school. So
totally.
Anyway.
And the thing that's resonating with me on that is that, when we think about school, there are so many skills that are part of it. And some of it is not even to do with like intelligence. It's like this skill of how do you manage time when you've got all of these competing priorities, which, some folks really excel at that naturally. And some folks, it takes some practice. And I love that this doc has given your kids some guardrails to help them so that they only have to worry about learning the material. They don't have to worry about this. They can kind of outsource the time management to a doc. And also then that it removes that. I love that you're talking about, like, I don't have to be the person who's like, hey, are you doing your homework? If you're actually helping them develop that internally, which is so cool to me. So how is this doc put together? Walk us through.
Okay. So it starts with, let me just see. Okay. So I'm going to start with just how someone would navigate and use it if they were just coming into it new. So the first thing is just setting up your courses. I just want to make sure you can see the screen okay?
Yeah, it looks good. You maybe want to zoom in just a little bit, like go up to view and just zoom in a little bit, just because I'm like, I got my little glasses on today. That's perfect. Thanks, Gretchen.
Oh, great. Okay.
Love it. Love it. Beautiful.
So you set up your courses. This doc is set up for 4 different courses because the different courses sort of bring out some of the different functionality that you can use. So this one's set up for art, and these were courses that my kids were taking, some of them.
Nice.
And then foreign language, Chinese, and then English.
My favorite subject.
Yeah.
Well, history is also my favorite, and art. I like all school. I'm a school nerd.
I am too. I love school. It's probably why I loved your doctorate program.
Well, thank you.
And history. Okay, so you start with, these are the courses, and then we'll just kind of let's just do history. I'm going to kind of really walk through that one, because the doc that's in the gallery is set up with just the history course. So you have each course. So that's one thing that's set up. And then I'm going to scroll down just a little bit to go through some of what's underneath.
Perfect.
So
cool.
The syllabi, or in this case, the syllabus for history, this was an issue that really came out to me during the pandemic when I was getting my hands dirty, because a lot of times my kid would start class and there would be sort of a syllabus, but what I was wanting from them was a syllabus that just had the topics, you know, and sometimes I'd even ask the teacher, you know, could I get just a basic syllabus so I kind of have a game plan, like, or even English, just
Yeah,
a
to
syllabus
Google ahead.
that would show we're going to do these 5 books this semester, and here they are. Because in my mind, I would go ahead and get those books ordered on Amazon before, you know, anything I can get done beforehand, I want to do. And so the syllabus would just sort of help me organize that. So that part of the process, I feel like the students just get right into the assignment management without taking a big picture of what are we really trying to learn here. So like in history, you'd have the main topics, like in this case, World War I, Russian Revolution, World War II. But then you'd have subtopics within that. And this was how I mapped out, this was my naming convention for the class. You know, so if the school, all the different teachers had different naming conventions, but I always had to bring it back to the main topics and the subtopics, because that would help me figure out what do we need to learn. You know, and if maybe we don't have time to read the book for this one class, so maybe we're going to watch that movie. But if I just have that basic outline of the main topics, and then kind of as we go along, filling in the subtopics. And it also helps the student later, because oftentimes the quizzes are kind of paced with those subtopics. So everything in this doc is linked to a topic or a subtopic. So if there's a quiz coming up on the cause of World War II, everything you have in here is linked to that. So all of your key terms, your notes, everything is like, all right, let me just focus in on the cause of World War II.
Yeah. And so, hey, Gretchen, Nicholas is wondering if you could show the table, because I'm assuming that you have a table that has the subject, the topic, the subtopics all in one. Is that correct?
Yes. So everything for all the classes, the entire doc is built off of, let me go to my trusty doc map.
Ah, yes.
Okay. As you can see, there's 12 views of this big table. In the doctorate, they talked about the one big table. This is my one big table.
Love it.
And this is, everything is in here. This one big table of event. This is when classes, this is assignments, this is grades. It's everything is in this one table. Nice. And so what I'm going to do is just show you the view. You asked to go back to the table view.
Yeah.
This is that one big table, but just history.
So filtered by the subject is history.
Yes. So cool. Filtered by history.
Beautiful. Love it.
And so you have here's the main topic, which is a lookup, and then the subtopic. And this should let me, okay.
Yeah.
So like if the student gets the main topic in, and the whole thing will work even if you don't have any of the topics.
Right.
But if they get the main topic in, then when you have to keep adding something quickly, like I'll just add a history thing. So here's a button. I'm in history class.
So it automatically fills. Beautiful.
It automatically fills to history. The teacher's talking about World War I. And then, wait, sorry, let me try. Yeah, okay. And then we're talking about how it ended. Because the choices for the subtopic will filter down. If you get that main topic in, it'll filter down to those subtopics.
Yeah.
But even if you don't do any of this, it's okay. Everything will still work. And then here is learning methods.
I love it.
And this is where, when I've talked to some of my kids' friends and, I'm like bribing them to beta test the app, I'll buy you a pizza.
I'll test an app for a pizza anytime.
Oh, how funny. That's the CODA support team.
Oh, they're saying, hey.
Okay, very meta. So anyway, one of the debates we had about learning methods is, whether to put the actual class date and time, mm-hmm. not an assignment, but just Tuesday, 10 o'clock history class, mm-hmm. whether that should be in this separate thing, like a calendar, which that sort of worked, but then that fell apart because the Zoom, some classes were Zoom, some classes were in daytime, and you could still do it in a calendar. But I just viewed all of that, if it has a date and a time, or even just a date, and it's something you've got to do to learn this, it's all in learning methods. Amazing. So if I'm in history and the teacher says the Zoom class, is going to be here on this date in this building, I'm just entering that as a thing with a date and time. It doesn't matter. So like, I just entered that thing. So now I'm going to go up to the calendar and sorry, I've got everything.
You've got a lot of homework to do today, Gretchen.
I need to spread out my due dates. The due dates were set for the end of 2021. So
yeah, it's all good.
Yeah. So let me just do that really quick. Okay. So here's that Zoom class I just added.
Yeah. Let's make it for tomorrow. Yeah.
There. And the test is going to be on the 30th. And here's another Zoom class that happened the week before.
Love it.
That. But the in-person class was on Thursday. Just kind of, normally you do this like as you go.
Right.
The first test.
But I would assume that, particularly in the pandemic, things might shift, right? Like, oh, you know what? Teacher's sick, so we're actually going to do the Zoom class on this day instead. Even as things change, then because you have that view into the calendar, like you don't have to update it in a bunch of places, right? Like all of a sudden we have a completely new month and you didn't have to do it in the homework and then over here. Like, I love that you've used those views to save yourself and your kids some time. That's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. And, so like, here's how it would look on the calendar where, okay, here's Zoom class.
I love the use of icons there too, that you just put the emoji in to help it stand out in the name. That's awesome.
Yeah. And then notes, and here's when homework is. And so, if you're in class, if you're in history, or if you're thinking about history, all you have to do is just get to any of these buttons, add a history event or assignment, anything, just click that button. And you'll get, and you could just say, it's so fast. I don't know the topic. I don't know, but it's
something's due.
Homework due, tomorrow or the 30th. And then I've entered that, and then it's just there.
It's just there.
Homework due. And if I wanted to, I could have done it like this, just done homework. Okay.
Yeah, I like that you can like jot it down and then fill in more context later if you want. Like I can imagine like a kid is, on a class, right? And like, oh crap, okay, I'm gonna pull up my phone, just add it. Great, now I have it logged, right?
Right. That's very cool. I mean, that was so key. So, and one other thing, I do want to give a shout out to Scott Weir. You can find him in the CODA community because he came up with this icons doc, which I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I think the version in the gallery has it.
I'll try and find it and post it to chat. Yeah.
Yeah. And here's the link.
Oh, perfect.
Scott's doc. And so what he did is he built this doc where you can pull in CODA's icons. So before you had said emoji, but these icons are actually CODA's. Like these icons.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Emoji is like a very specific thing. I misspoke.
Oh no, I just sorry.
No, don't apologize. I misspeak all the time.
But I I didn't have enough emojis.
We always
And
can use more in our life. Yes.
I like I like the idea of keeping the graphics the same. So, okay, so like if you're here, you know, you're just logging in, you're like, okay, history, that's the globe.
Mhm.
Okay. And then when I'm in my calendar, the anything that's history starts with that same globe.
Yeah.
And then so the first coda icon is the subject.
Mhm.
And then this very second one is what functionally is it. I
Yeah.
kind of think of these as horizontal,
Mhm.
whereas the subjects are vertical. So you could have an in-person class for any of these subjects.
And I love
So
that you can like look at those icons and know, okay, today is going to require a lot of focus because I'm going to be on Zoom all day, or you know, my project is here, so I'm going to have to. And I love that the icons just tell you like the energy level you're going to need to have, what you need to prepare for, and it doesn't take a lot of time to pull it in. Like I can very easily see, okay, today is going to be a class and a homework day. That's super cool. Mhm.
oh yeah, thanks. Yeah, because you know, again, getting back to that we'll call it not an eigen question, I'll call it the unpacking question of the 10 questions underneath. You know, this is the answer to all of those questions. So getting your parent to stop nagging you about homework is, if you get everything in here, then you just send them this link and say, oh, do I have homework? Well, let me show you.
Boom. Here it is,
You know,
mom.
here it is. And then you can, you know, log in. Like eventually I want to add some buttons to like earn rewards, you know, for
Ooh.
keeping this up to date.
Yeah.
Because my kids really like just immediate rewards. I
Oh,
guess
I
all
mean,
kids
don't we
do.
all? Yeah,
But
don't we all?
if I could have a few just quick, you know, hit a button, yay, I just put $1 in your checking account for updating your assignments for today or whatever it is. But so the icons, you know, again, office hours. So everything just, this is the key and you can see quickly and then
Fantastic.
go to the details of, you know, the thing. And this is where Canvas column is going to be awesome.
Yes. And
Where,
Nicholas was actually just asking about, oh, like notes during class. So Nicholas, what Gretchen has here is exactly what I'm talking about. Go for it, Gretchen.
yeah. So, but I'm glad Nicholas asked that, because where the traditional learning management systems make it harder, I guess I would say, is this is kind of going back to before and after CODA. You know, the before CODA way
Ooh,
was,
I'm exhausted looking at that too.
yeah, I mean, if you he's asking about taking notes, right?
Yeah.
You know, but it would be nice to have your notes connected to the calendar
Right.
of, you know, when the quiz is and all of that. So everything just is connected here. And so if you're a student, so talking about notes, so like this is history, the subtopic World War II, notes. Now I just have it set up right now for key terms. So if I add a key term, you know,
Normandy.
FDR. Yeah.
Oh, FDR. That's a good
There's
too.
a good Normandy landings. I may actually have that one in there. So now
I was already thinking about it.
Yeah, the pack, CODA's Wikipedia pack, automatically pulled this in.
So
and
cool.
So I can say, you know, and then I can just categorize the term. Like maybe I do event in place. I probably ought to set that to multi-select, but we'll just call it event. You know?
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so I've got that in there. I've got World War II, you know, and now I'm like, okay, this is sort of how it ended, you know, sort of the beginning of the end. And, you know, but I've automatically got the Wikipedia pack pulling in what Wikipedia has.
Cool.
And the point of that is not, you know, oh, we're just learning from Wikipedia. It's really not that. It's just, it's to get get something, if you've got to write a paper about
A
World War II,
refresher.
it's nice to have, oh, well, maybe I'll talk about concepts and this will be my outline,
Mhm.
or maybe I just want to focus on the people,
Yeah.
or events and groups and ideologies. So that Wikipedia pack kind of gets you started. And
Yeah.
as you're in class, you can just say, if the teacher's like, you need to know this, 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 and this for the quiz, you can just keep adding that. And then you've got kind of a starting point.
Yeah. And then I could imagine you could then have a Canvas column on these as well to then take your own notes. So it's like, great, here's what I've got Wikipedia pulling in the basic details, and I can have that for my refresher. And then I can also have my own note taking area for my own impressions and how I feel about it. Like, oh, when I'm looking at this is what's coming up for me. And I like that you have like a bit of a blend because again, like, being a student in that online world it's taxing. And so being able to have that kind of guardrail or that support system, I could imagine really helping me cognitively take in more. That would be my impression.
Yeah, yeah. I hope so. My
Mhm.
kids are so tired of hearing me I'm like, have you used your Coda doc? So,
Yes, mom,
but
I've used my Coda doc. Gosh.
they're so, it's funny because my son, he's in a web app class at school, and
Uh-huh.
we are now having code versus no code debates, and he
Love
just
it.
loves saying the word Python. And so and I'm like,
Amazing.
but you could build the prototype so fast in no code, and then you can always get it out into Python later. Anyway, so we're
Yeah.
just all in, okay, on
Gosh,
no
I
code over
love.
here.
I'll be over for dinner tonight.
Oh my gosh, anytime. So kind of getting back to, and I just made a note to go back and optimize this doc for Canvas column
I
because
mean, you built it before it was a thing.
right, it was
Yeah.
built before that, right? So
Mhm.
just a couple other things, like for Chinese, it's all the same setup. Again, this is coming from that one big table, but it's filtered for the subject Chinese.
Yeah.
And so same thing, the red geographic pin, is Chinese. And so, okay, that's in-person class, that's homework. And then what was fun about this, oh, and just one last thing on note taking.
Yeah. Yeah.
It would be really great, I think. I'd love to know what people think if the notes were tied to the main and subtopics. Because
Ooh.
another thing that
Mhm.
really kind of tripped us up some was notes by these naming conventions that didn't connect to the topic, where, well, these are my
Mhm.
unit 2 notes or my unit 1 notes. You know, I I liked having the notes connected to the topic. And then you can look and go, okay, this topic is going to be on this quiz.
Yeah.
But I'm organizing my notes around the topic. So,
Oh, Gretchen, I'm loving it. Would you be okay playing a bit together on this
uh,
topic?
yes.
Okay, go to your base table with all of
Oh,
the stuff, right?
okay. Awesome.
Go there.
Okay.
So what you could do is you could just add a column to this big old table, right?
Yes.
Just add one and make
Okay.
it a Canvas column. So change the column type to be a Canvas column. Nice. And just call that notes.
Yeah.
So now go ahead, click on that. Click on any one of them.
Okay, I'm going to find a history one.
Yeah. Find our Normandy entry.
Okay, where is
There, World War II, how it ended. There's
there we
that
go.
Zoom class. Yeah. So we could click on the notes column here.
Okay.
And now if you see in that it's notes 2 is the Canvas column. So
Oh,
not that
right.
one. Yeah.
Okay. I'll
Because you already
fix
had
that.
one. So now what you could do is you could add a table, you could put a heading, or you could reference things you've done elsewhere. So let's go ahead and type at Normandy here.
Oh, wow.
Normandy
Yes.
landings. Perfect. And now hover over that. you get all of the information about it. So I could be taking my notes and at mentioning things. You can also mention the different subtopics. And then you can actually, for since this is a Canvas column, I can access anything that I put in here via formulas. So if I had a table in here of like notes from that thing, I could mention it with formulas, or I could use the line break formula to pull like anytime something was there. Or if maybe I'm writing my notes and it's like, I need to super remember this because it's going to be on the quiz, I could type quiz. And then I could use formulas to be like line break where current value has quiz, and then pull it into a little column here. So like that's what I think is super cool. And I will actually grab a link to the community post where we do something similar. It's for it's not for this doc, but it's a similar aspect of like pulling out summary or pulling out action items from a Canvas column. So this would be my big thing that I would do in here.
Yeah, I love that. Yes.
And then it's all searchable, right? So if I want to find my notes about something, I can do that there. So let me go ahead and grab that from the community, but thanks for playing along with me, Gretchen.
Of course. Right. Yeah. I mean, that's awesome. Yeah. And just, it's like connecting that key term, to that quiz. Yep. And so that you're like, okay, I got to study for the quiz. I go to that quiz and then I already have those terms populated in the Canvas column for that quiz.
Mm-hmm. And then all of the notes are in this one spot, right? So for the subject, topic, event, I have all my notes organized and I can see it all.
Yes. Yes. I love it. That's awesome.
And then remember, because Canvas columns are just a column type, you could put that note wherever it makes sense in your hierarchy, right? So like Nicholas is saying, oh, it might make sense for my brain to put the notes elsewhere. Since Gretchen, you've used lookup columns here for like the subject, you could put the notes just at the subject table and just have that one thing. And then just that be your general storage spot, or have it more hierarchical here, like we're seeing in this spot. So lots of ways to think about this. And that's what I love, is that depending on how your brain makes sense of information, you can put those notes wherever you want them to be, right? Like they don't have to be in a certain spot.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's awesome. Yeah. That'll be on my product roadmap.
Yes. I
to
love it.
Make all of that optimized.
Fantastic.
So that's awesome.
Amazing.
Yeah. And just, a couple of quick things.
Sure, yeah. Sorry to interrupt. I just was like,
no. I love that.
Let's do it.
I love that. Here for any kind of foreign language class that you have, Coda's Google Translate pack is really awesome, where you can practice entering. So this is just Google Translate pack, just /pack and then Google Translate. I pulled this in, and then, so in this case, she would enter the Chinese type text, but then this formula, I put a little robot there.
I love it. Icons, they're so helpful to be able to guide people through. I love it. So elegant there, Gretchen.
Thanks. Unfortunately, the header icons are emojis because I couldn't get the Coda icons in the table column headers. But anyway, so the formula is from the Google Pack: translate Chinese typed to the target language of English. So this was a conversation up here between a patient and a doctor. And it just, we pulled apart. It was almost like a script where the patient is saying this, then the patient says that, then the doctor says this, then the patient. And then you could go in and do it the reverse, where you put English in, and then this will translate the English to the target language of Chinese.
Very cool.
And there might have been a few late nights where mom was using this to help a little bit, probably more than I should have, but it's just, this was great,
That's so cool.
And then and then the other thing, and this part, the English, your favorite subject, when the pandemic was going on and we had to kind of focus on, so again, same table, syllabus,
same structure,
topic,
love it.
English. And then here, if it was Julius Caesar and, Shakespeare, it's kind of hard.
It's a lot.
And so one thing I really wanted for this doc was just for my kids to start building how they want to learn. So like I'm very visual. So I'm always going to pull in a video first thing. And so this Julius Caesar was just set up to pull in a SparkNotes video. I mean, this is just a 9-minute video.
Caesar's in charge, then he gets stabbed. It's March 15th, the end.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. And but then like, if you want to actually go to the play, you can do that here. But then if you want to watch the movie, here were the links to rent it on Amazon Prime, YouTube Rent. I made a note that it's not on Netflix. So we always check there first.
Yeah.
And then this pulled in the cast so that, because when you're learning for school, you need to learn each character and like know what they do. So this mapped the characters with the actor. So while you were watching the movie, you were like, oh, okay, that's Brutus.
That person. Yeah.
And connect it all. And so that was, because for me, I think what I learned after really getting into the learning system is, unfortunately, there's a lot of, here's the material, learn it, and then prove that you know it. There's a lot of this sort of one-to-many, and what I really wanted with this was for my kids to kind of go, okay, I know I need to learn this Shakespeare book, but I'm going to make this fun for me. I'm going to make it work for how I learn.
Yes.
And build this thing. And then that's, I'm still going to be able to show you that I know it, but I may come up with some creative ways to make my own curriculum, make my own learning methods.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the big idea for that.
And it's so interesting as you were saying that, Gretchen, is that I feel like sometimes, it can take a lot for us to figure out how we learn, because we may not learn in the way that traditional education usually creates for us, right? Like maybe I'm not a person who learns by reading, which means that I'm probably going to have a lot of struggles. But by finding a way to figure out what are the topics, what is required of me, okay, how do I want to organize this? Just by going through the process of how we organize our thoughts can help us so much figure out how we learn and how to be successful. And anytime we're presented with a new thing I need to figure out, by figuring out the way that we learn, it can help us get there. And I love that this doc has created that foundation of like, oh, you know what? It's really helpful for me to see things visually. Oh, it's really helpful for me to take some notes. It's really helpful for me to organize my learning in this way, because maybe for my learning methods, maybe I don't want to do it by video, audiobook, a Zoom class. Maybe I want to do it by like the level of energy that I need, or maybe I want to do it with like a different way. Maybe I organize it differently. And I love that this doc allows these kids to figure out, okay, this is a general structure to make sure I just have what I need when I need it. But now I can think about, how do I want to organize the notes and the concepts in a way that is fun and meaningful for me as a young person? And I love that this could be something like, okay, anytime I have a new college class, or, hey, I have a new job and I want to figure out how to learn stuff in my milestone, I'm going to build that. Like, I love that you're empowering your kids with a structure that they can then play with and decide to shift and change, which is something that a learning management system wouldn't necessarily allow them to do, right? You have to, this is how it works, and you can't compromise. And I love that it's like, oh yeah, every kid could kind of have a different approach. And I'm assuming the calendar here, Gretchen, is like, shows me everything I need to do. Yeah.
But yeah, the calendar is across all classes.
Nice. So we don't have a filter there. It's just, hey, let's just see it as a calendar.
Yeah.
Oh, those icons.
If you go to week view, when I was moving all the dates forward, everything went to today.
Like I said, today is a tough day. We got a lot of homework to do, Gretchen.
I gotta fix
we're going to be up all night.
But generally it looks like this, and you can just see everything. And then of course, you know, you can filter and say, you know, I want just to see Zoom classes.
Yeah.
You know?
Love that. Love that.
Oops, sorry. Yeah, that kind of brings it all together.
So cool. And then I love that, like, you as the parent could then just come in here and be like, okay, I know exactly what the kids need. And now instead of me saying, do you have any homework? I can be like, hey, it looks like you have a project that's due on Friday. Do you need what support do you need from me? Are you good? That you can ask those better questions that you were talking about at the beginning of our time today, which I just think must improve. I mean, it's been a while since I've been a teenager, but I feel like that kind of question would be less, oh, mom, gosh, and more like, oh yeah, actually, mom, I need a ride to the store so I can get volcano supplies. Right.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like, this is, you know, I just filtered for project, and by knowing it in advance and thinking about it, if there's an art project, like, I always want to get grandma, my mom, involved, because she is very crafty.
We can all use a crafty grandma in our lives. My gosh.
You know, and she enjoys it, and it's a great thing for them to do together. And you know, so it's the big picture of everything. So
amazing.
Yeah.
And you know, it's so funny, like, you know this about me, Gretchen. Anytime I see a cool doc, I always see the patterns, right? Like, oh, and how could we reuse this pattern in other ways? It's like, we've got this amazing implementation to support a family during a remote learning process. But then thinking about, like, gosh, I am a freshman in college and I need to now learn how to do this college thing. I could use this same structure for myself, right? Because I need to be the person who's nagging myself of like, hey, do you have your homework done? But then also thinking about, okay, I could use this for anytime I get a new job, structuring it out of like, okay, here are the different parts of my job. Here's when I need to do things. Here are the people that I've met and how they connect, right? I could use that same thing. Or, you know, I'm trying to learn how to garden. So I'm going to use this to organize my garden beds of like when things need to be planted and all of that, and my notes on how different seeds are doing. So I love that you've created this structure that is highly flexible. Also, Richard is saying this is super captivating because he desires to create a simple learning management system with Coda for his coaching work. So awesome. Richard, I posted a link to Gretchen's doc over here in chat. So you can go ahead, snag it, make a copy, and then customize it for yourself. Yeah. Love to hear that, Richard.
And
fantastic.
You were talking about like working this for college. I want to give a shout out to Sining Chan. She's from Coda. She and I did some calls, and she was helping me, and she came up with the idea for the NAG eliminator part.
Such a good tagline.
The original title was All-in-One School Learning Platform, which is pretty plain. And she has a great doc also, and talking about personalizing it for each student. In her doc, she brings in the Spotify pack. Mm-hmm. And I love that idea because, you know, I just think, oh, you know, you could have like for kids that just like one of my kids just always has her headphones on. She loves music. And if she could just have like her art Spotify playlist and say, all right, I may not be able to do an hour's worth of homework, but I could do 5 songs, you know, and have that playlist in there, embedded inside using Coda's pack. And then she can just go in and start firing up that playlist and then start doing her work, you know? So that was a cool doc and a cool feature that's so cool. In her doc.
And I'm also thinking with the Spotify pack and also the YouTube pack, you know, I could pull in cool podcasts, right? Like, oh, this is a podcast about World War II, or there's a wonderful podcast called Lend Me Your Ears, which is about Shakespeare and like breaking down Shakespeare. Like you could bring those things in. Oh, wow. And I love this idea of like, she's essentially creating a Pomodoro method for herself. Like, okay, I just got to work for 5 songs. Like, cool. Yeah. We have a request. Could we see the introduction and purpose page, please, Gretchen?
Okay. So yeah, this really, it was kind of getting back to the problem set of, you know, when I was really kind of getting to the breaking point of the systems I was using,
I'm done.
I was like ready to throw my computer out the window.
Yeah, that's too many things.
I mean, you look at it like, and we haven't even really talked. I'll just do a quick thing on grades. Like the grades are also tied to that one big table, and they're conditionally formatted. So if you get a failing grade, although I try not to say there's no such thing,
Yeah.
it's a learning opportunity. But
Love
if
it.
you have a grade you want to schedule to retake, this will show, oh, I need it, because a lot of times they can retake it. So I can see, oh, I got
Yeah.
a 50.
I
Let
hadn't
me
even thought
add an
of that.
event to schedule the retake for the learning lab.
Mhm.
And all of that is from the big table. But so
Amazing.
the idea was, so before we had the school learning platform, and then we had a whole other grading platform. Then if there were events, you had to go to the school website. Then there's the whole curriculum of the Google Drive login, the Google Slides, PDFs. The teacher would sometimes share a YouTube video. Then as you're going through, you wanted to check grades, you'd go back to the grading platform.
Right.
But then before you even get the grade, you're taking notes. And that was either a paper notebook, Evernote, Microsoft OneNote, just different apps.
Just scattered all over the place.
Right. And then to turn in the assignments, as I said in the beginning about how some of our tricky points were knowing, do we have an assignment? When is it due? And then turning it in on time.
Right.
That whole process, you're also going into email, because a lot of times if you ask to turn it in a day late, you'd have to send an email to the teacher. So you were going into your email, and then when it was time to study. So this is an attempt to consolidate all of that into this doc. And then as far as how I thought about, the simplification, it was just having all your courses, the syllabi is all in one place. You're getting your class materials. So when the teachers are giving you things to view, you put them in your doc.
Right.
Instead of just viewing them out in this other app. You have the calendar, your notes, like, make your notes fun and pretty.
Yes.
Because one of my kids she takes the most beautiful notes. Like she'll spend an hour on these one page of notes that are just amazing. And so great, make your notes fun and pretty. All your
the joyful aspect of it, right? If learning is fun, it becomes more meaningful. And if it's personalized, it becomes more impactful. Yeah.
Right. So, and then, your assignments, quizzes and tests, and your grades, but really 5, 7, 8, and 9 that's all the one big table.
Yeah.
Key terms is a separate table that looks up to the syllabus table.
Yep.
But it's all connected, but the bulk of it is in that one big table.
Yeah. And then the calendar is just a view of that big table.
Exactly.
Awesome. Oh, Gretchen, thank you so much for taking so much time to walk us through this elegant, brilliant, and just downright fun doc. It's been a true pleasure. Everybody here on the call, I've posted all of the links to everything right over here in chat. So a link to Gretchen's template that you can go ahead and make your own, a link to the Canvas columns detail, a link to Scott's icons doc. And actually, I will be having Scott joining us in a couple weeks to walk through a really interesting doc he's made with some packs that he's built. So definitely join us for that. And I've also posted a link to the doctorate program. So if you would like to become part of the same program that Gretchen graduated from, you'll be able to work with me and my wonderful colleague Rocky for 6 weeks. It's one of our favorite things that we love to do. We'd love to have you. But again, Gretchen, thank you so much. And is there anything that you would like to plug while we have you here in our final 60 seconds?
I mean, I certainly want to plug Maria's course. Maria and Rocky do a great job. And if I am in the CODA community, you can find me at ADOC_MAMA, ADOC_MAMA. And then I tweet about CODA. I'm organizing pretty much my entire life in CODA. And I tweet about that on Twitter at a doc mama. But more importantly, email me. If you've played around with the doc or have a question, I want to make it better. And I would love to hear from you. So if you want to email me at gtgarden.
I'm going to post it in there.
Okay. Yeah. It's just GTEA garden at gmail.com.
Love it. Thank you, Gretchen. That is so generous of you. Fabulous. Well, Gretchen, it has been such a pleasure. Thank you so much. I always love when we get to spend time together, and I feel really inspired. And I'm actually like, ooh, I think I want to use this for some of I love this structure. I'm going to use it maybe for this novel I'm trying to write, and also for my gardening. I'm definitely going to take a look. All right. Awesome. Take care, everybody. Take care, Gretchen. I will see you around, and the recording will be posted to the community by tomorrow. Excellent. Awesome. All right. Take care and be well.
Everyone.
Gretchen, you're the best.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.